Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make this St. Patrick's Day door swag using the paint stir stick method. Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Come on in. Before we get started, let me just take a quick minute to welcome anyone new here to the channel. Stillwater's Wreath Designs is all about step-by-step DIY wreath and door swag tutorials. We have new tutorials uploading every single week, so if you like that sort of thing, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join us. And for those of you that have been here on the channel for a while, thank you for coming back. I so appreciate you. You'll find a full materials list for you below in the description of this video in case you'd like to recreate this beauty. Of course, if you'd rather just purchase today's creation, you'll find my Etsy shop link below as well. All right, let's dive in. Go ahead and plug in your hot glue gun. We're going to build today's door swag on a 5-gallon paint stir stick. I actually grabbed these from Amazon. You can get them at hardware stores as well. However, I typically like to grab them from Amazon because they come to you like a blank canvas, just like this. If you get them from the hardware store, they're going to have measurements on there, which isn't so attractive. And the first thing we need to do is to load our paint stir stick with pipe cleaners. These are just standard 12-inch pipe cleaners, and you're going to need 9 of them. The first thing we're going to do is create our door hanger. And at the top of the paint stir stick, about 3 inches or so down, you'll see there's an indentation. That is the perfect place for your door hanger. So just take a pipe cleaner, wrap it right around that center point, give it a couple of tight twists, and then just make an X pattern near the top. And we're going to wrap this pipe cleaner around itself on each side. So now you've got a nice 2-inch loop to hang your door swag. Go ahead and flip that guy back over. We're going to add 2 more pipe cleaners towards the top. So I'm going to wrap this right underneath where we attach that door hanger and give it a couple of tight twists and point those guys off to one side. Then we're going to add another hanger and do the same thing going on the opposite side. So you're just adding 2 or 3 tight twists and then laying those pipe cleaners off to the side. I'm going to come down to the bottom of our paint stir stick, up about 1 inch or so, and do that exact same thing. And now we're going to do the exact same thing in the center of the upper and the lower sets of pipe cleaners. I'm just going to eyeball it, but feel free to measure if you would prefer. All right, now that we've added our 3 sets of double pipe cleaners, we'll add 2 more pipe cleaners, and these will be singles. You're going to add 1 between the upper and the middle and 1 between the middle and the lower. So just right in the center, wrap that guy around tight, give it a couple of tight twists, and point those guys straight up. You can see I'm kind of making that into a U-shaped, and you'll see why here in just a minute. All right, now we have all of our pipe cleaners loaded into our paint stir stick. And so now we're going to grab our hot glue gun and just run a couple of stripes over those pipe cleaners so that they can really anchor down, and we don't have to worry about them sliding as we create our door swag. Once you've got your glue dollops added, go ahead and sit this guy off to the side to dry. And while that's drying, we'll go ahead and prepare our Deco Mesh. We're going to use a metallic white and a metallic green 10-inch rolls of Deco Mesh for today's design. And to cut the mesh, you're going to want to grab a ruler and a good pair of scissors or your rotary cutter and self-healing mat. If you're new to wreath making, friends, I always recommend that one of the first tools that you grab for yourself is the self-healing mat. Let me scooch those guys. What you see in the background here is a self-healing mat. They come in a variety of different sizes. This particular mat is 36 inches by 24, and it's got measurement grids all along the mat. And it allows you to cut materials directly on the mat without harming your workstation or the sharp edges of your tools. And then I would also recommend that you grab a rotary cutter. A rotary cutter basically looks like a mini pizza cutter, and it lets you cut your Deco Mesh quickly and with nice clean lines. I'll leave links for these for you below. So remember, we've got 8 pipe cleaners on our door swag, and we're going to add 1 green and 1 white piece to each pipe cleaner. So we're going to need 8 cuts of the green and 8 cuts of the white, measured at 22 inches. So with your self-healing mat and rotary cutter or your scissors, just roll out that mesh, find that 22-inch mark, and cut. So go ahead and cut 8 pieces of each color at 22 inches in length, and I'll meet you back here. Once you've got all of your Deco Mesh pieces cut, go ahead and grab your paint stir stick and bring that back to your work area. I would also recommend you grab a chip clip or a clothespin for this next step. Just makes it a little bit easier. And we're going to add 2 Deco Mesh Cruffles to every single pipe cleaner on our paint stir stick. 1 green and 1 white, going in opposite directions. So let's do a couple together and then we'll speed ahead. To make a cruffle, you're going to grab your piece of Deco Mesh and lay that in your work area, curl side up. I like to place something heavy on it just to keep it from rolling around. And then at one end, you're going to roll that end in 3 times. If you are new to Deco Mesh, you will soon learn the Deco Mesh loves to fray, so anything that we can do to tuck away those raw edges is always ideal. So I've rolled this end in 3 times, and then I've just clipped it with my clothespin here to keep that guy secure. And then I'm going to spin it around, and then I'll roll the opposite end in 3 times to tuck away that raw edge. Remove my weight, and now I'm going to press down on that curl that we just made with my thumbs to hold it stationary, and then I'll use my fingers to crawl this mesh back into my hand. Once I reach the end here, I'll remove that clip and pinch that guy in the center, and you've just made a cruffle. And what that really means, friends, is a curl on each end and a ruffle in the middle, hence the cruffle. We're going to add a green cruffle to every single set of doubles. And it doesn't matter if that cruffle is horizontal or vertical. So I've just opened those pipe cleaners into a wide V, taken that cruffle and placed it all the way down to the base of the V of that pipe cleaner, and then I gave that pipe cleaner 2 super duper tight twists. Now I'm going to add another green cruffle on the opposite side. So I'm laying my piece of Deco Mesh in my work area, curl side up. I'm going to place something in the middle that's a little bit heavy to hold that guy down. I'm going to roll my end in 3 times to tuck away that raw edge, and then secure with my clip. I'll then spin that guy around, and I'm going to roll that opposite end 3 times. I'll remove that weight and scrunch and gather that mesh back into my hand. I'm going to remove that clip, pinch that cruffle that we've just made in the middle. I'm going to come back to my paint stir stick and open those pipe cleaners into a wide V, place that cruffle all the way down to the base of that V, and then I'm going to give these pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super duper tight twists and point them off to the side. So since we've added green to our first row of pipe cleaners, we'll add white to the next. So I'm just going to make my cruffle. Now, because our green cruffles are going vertically, we're going to add our white cruffle in horizontally. So we're going to follow the same method. Let me just scooch my pipe cleaner here. And again, we're going to place this guy horizontally all the way down to the base of the V of those pipe cleaners and give them a couple of tight twists. So we've got our 2 vertical Cruffles in our double set of pipe cleaners. We've added a white horizontally to our single, and we're going to repeat that for the next two. So we'll put 2 green, 1 white, and 2 green. Go ahead and add those Cruffles in, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, now we've added our first layer of Cruffles into our paint stir stick, and now it's time to add our second layer. And everything that we do on this second layer, friends, is going to be the opposite. So when we start at the bottom, our first layer, we added 2 green Cruffles vertically. So now we'll add 2 white Cruffles right on top of those horizontally. For the white Cruffles that we added to the singles horizontally, we'll now add a green going vertically. So for every set of pipe cleaners, you're going to use the opposite color of Deco Mesh for your Cruffle, and you're going to have that Cruffle going in the opposite direction. Let's do these first 3 together, and then we'll speed ahead. So I've made my Cruffle off camera here. I'm going to add this white one right on top of the green. So we're doing opposite. So instead of green, it's white. Instead of vertical, it's going to be horizontal. And we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. And again, it's going to go right on top of that green horizontally. So we're going to add a single green Cruffle going vertical. Remember, as we add the second layer, for every pipe cleaner, you're going to use the opposite color and have your Cruffle going in the opposite direction. Remember to give those pipe cleaners some tight, tight twists. So that's what it should look like here on this bottom half. Go ahead and finish those remaining pipe cleaners, making sure that each color is opposite and the direction is opposite as the first layer, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, we've got our 2 Deco Mesh Cruffles added to every single set of pipe cleaners, and just look how cute and full that base is. So let me tell you real quickly, guys, that this currently is about 24 inches in length and 12 inches or so wide, and probably 8 to 10 inches deep. This would be a great table centerpiece as well. So the next step is to add in some bows. We're going to add a bougie bow to the center, and then we'll sprinkle some ribbon tails throughout. So let's make our bougie bow first. So go ahead and grab a good pair of scissors and a white pipe cleaner. Let me show you the ribbons that I've chosen for this beauty. I've got a 2.5 inch black and white, a 2.5 inch glitter shamrock, a 1.5 inch shamrock with some black trim, and a solid 1.5 inch green glitter. So those are the 4 ribbons that we'll be using. You can use as many or as few as you would like to make this bow. Just make sure that whatever ribbon you choose is wired. We're going to start out with the black and white. That just gives it some nice contrast. So I'm just going to unroll some of my ribbon, and we're going to make this bow by hand. I'm going to lay a standard ruler here just for some quick measurements. I want 6-inch tail, so I'm going to identify that 6-inch mark. And then I'm just going to pinch that ribbon to create that tail. And then I'm going to give that ribbon a hard twist. You always want your ribbon to be pretty side out. And for this bow, I want 4-inch loops. So that means I need to measure out an 8-inch piece. I'm going to give that a pinch. Bring that back into my hand, which just created my 4-inch loop. I'm going to give that a twist underneath my thumb. So my left hand here, as you've noticed, is my holding hand. My right hand is my working hand. We're going to measure out to that 8 inches again. And guys, not looking for perfection. No one's going to be measuring. Give that a pinch and secure that guy underneath my thumb. To make sure my loops are the same, I'm just going to marry them on top of one another, and they are. And we're going to cut our 6-inch tail. We'll set that off to the side and move on to ribbon number 2, which is the 2.5-inch shamrock. I'm going to use the exact same measurements for this. So we're going to identify that 6-inch mark for our tail. Give it a little pinch and gather, and place that underneath my thumb. I'm going to give that a hard twist. Just a quick FYI, guys, anytime you have glitter appliques on your ribbon, it is stiff. Now, you're welcome to continue to measure. I'm just going to eyeball it and make sure it's the same length as that black and white loop, maybe just about a 1/4 inch smaller. I'm going to measure this tail with the black and white tail and cut that guy off. I decided to grab some black and white chevron 1.5 inch just to give it a little bit more sass. And I'm going to continue to eyeball. We're going to make those loops about 1/2 inch smaller than the previous, so I'm just eyeballing. Again, guys, no one's going to be measuring, I promise. Then just marry those loops up to make sure they meet in the same spot. And trim off your tail. Keeping my tails all approximately the same length. Now we'll use the solid green glitter. We're going to make those loops basically the same size as that black and white chevron. Always marry those loops up and make sure they meet at approximately the same spot. And now for our final ribbon, we'll make those tails a tad shorter, probably 1 inch or so. And we're going to make a single loop that's only, 1.5 inches to 2 inches. And I'll show you why in just a minute. Once you've got your bow stack finished, grab your pipe cleaner, just kind of fold it into a loose V. And then we're going to wrap this guy right around the center of our bow. And you definitely want to give that 2 or 3 super duper tight twists, really as tight as you can get it. And then what I like to do, friends, is just put those pipe cleaners between 2 fingers and do a rough fluff of my bow. So all I'm doing is pulling these tails so that they're going in the right direction. That's it. Just pulling those tails down. We haven't fluffed out our loops at all, but we are going to take our scissors and go ahead and trim our tails. You can angle cut or dovetail. I'm just going to angle trim mine. And I always like to tell folks, make sure that you don't over trim. You can always take more off, but you can't put it back on. So just be cautious as you trim your ends. We're going to bring that swag back to our work area and get this guy added down in. Now it's a little hard to find those pipe cleaners when your beauty is full of Deco Mesh, so you can flip it over to find that center point. Now we're going to secure our bow right there in the center. So I'm just eyeballing it, flipping this guy over, and I actually added the longer pipe cleaners around my bow because this swag is so dense. Once you're back there on the back, just go ahead and give it a couple of tight twists. I want to make sure that's still where I want it to be before we commit. Yep, I'm happy with that placement. So I'm going to come back to the back, give it a few more tight twists to really secure that bow in place. And then I'm going to cut off the remaining bits of those pipe cleaners and tuck those edges under. Now that we've done that, we can fluff out our bow. So to fluff out our bow, I always like to start in the bottom, and I'm just going to make an X with those 2.5 inch. So I've got the black going one way and the shamrock going the other, and they're going in opposite directions. I'm just opening these loops up with my hands. I'm going to follow that same pattern with the 1.5 inch, making the X. And then that last ribbon that we added, where we just made the 1 inch loop, you're just going to turn that into what I call a button, just a single center loop, which kind of identifies then make that center point of our bow. I'm not going to do anything with my tails until the end, but we do have our bow roughly fluffed out and it's looking super stinking cute. So now we need to prepare our ribbon tails. So that leaves us 3 sets of pipe cleaner ties on the bottom and on the top. So we're going to need 6 tails of each ribbon type, and we're only going to make tails with the 1.5 inch ribbon. We're going to make our ribbon tails 11 inches long. So to make your tails quick and easily, you're going to take your ribbon, identify that 11-inch mark, and then you're going to fold this ribbon accordion style the total number of times that you need for pieces. In our case, 6. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once you've got that total number of folds, go ahead and trim off your ribbon. Now, what I want you to do, while your ribbon is still folded accordion style, know the strength of your scissors, guys, don't overcut. I'm going to pull up 3 pieces, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to cut diagonally. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the second half of my stack here. Then we'll spin this guy around and repeat that same process. And just like that, you have measured 6 tails and trim those ends all in one fell swoop. So it's a quick and easy way to make your ribbon tails. Go ahead and follow the same process. You'll need 6 tails of all 3 of the 1.5 inch ribbon types, and then I'll meet you back here. All right, guys, once you've got your ribbon tails cut, go ahead and bring your swag back to your work area, and we're going to add 3 ribbon tails to those 6 remaining pipe cleaners. And so to add your tails, you're going to stack 1 of each of the ribbon types right on top of each other in whatever order you prefer. I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. Then you can either eyeball to find that center point, or you can fold that stack in half. And remember, guys, no one's going to be measuring. Once you've identified that center, just give it a pinch and a pleat. You'll have to be a little rough with it. It's a little bit more tricky when you've got 3 tails instead of 2. You're going to fold those into a loose V over your thumb. And then you're going to come to any open set of pipe cleaners, open them into a wide V, place that ribbon tail set all the way down to the base, and give those pipe cleaners 2 or 3 super duper tight twists. Then you'll take your scissors or your small snips and just trim off those excess bits of pipe cleaners. You aren't going to add anything else in with them. And then we're just going to fluff out those tails. Let me just tuck that pipe cleaner nub out of the way. And so to fluff them out, I'm just going to pull them back into that V shape and spread them open a little bit so that everybody can see those beautiful tails. Just like that. You can run your finger over those ribbons, and that's going to give them a little bit of a curvature. How stinking cute. Let's do one more set together and then we'll speed ahead. So just layer your 3 ribbons on top of one another, and then either fold that ribbon stack in half to find the center point, or just eyeball it. Give that a pinch in the middle, fold that into a loose V over your thumb. Come to your next pipe cleaner set, all the way down to the base of those pipe cleaners, and give those guys 2 or 3 super tight twists. Trim off those excess bits of pipe cleaners with your scissors or small snips, and fluff out those tails. Now we're going to repeat that same process on the top part of our swag, and then I'll meet you back here. And the last step is to add in, we're going to add in 6 glitter shamrock attachments. So I've got this set of 6. I think I grabbed them from, gosh, I can't remember if it was the Dollar Tree or Hobby Lobby, but we're going to use all 6. Those shamrocks, just for reference, are about 2 inches in diameter. And they're on little wooden skewers, but guys, they just slide right off there. So we're gonna pop all of those shamrocks right off of those skewers. Now I would recommend you keep these skewers. They are great when you need to make your own picks for attachments. So I like to throw them in a mason jar and keep them off to the side. And we're basically going to add 1 glitter shamrock everywhere we've attached those tails down at random angles. So I'm just going to look at that, determine which side looks better, if any. Give the back of that shamrock a couple of full squirts of hot glue. Then we'll be careful not to touch that. And then right where we anchored those tails down, where those bits of pipe cleaner remain, we're just going to add them right there for all 6 of these ribbon tail bundles. I'm just going to give them a good press for about 15 seconds or so and then move on to the next. Look how cute this is with those little shamrock glitter attachments. And the last thing we have to do, friends, is just run our fingers over these ribbon tails to give them some height and some curvature and determine if we need to trim them. So I'm just running them over my fingers, one at a time, pulling them up towards the ceiling as I do it. I think those ribbon tails are perfect. I don't see any that are too long or that need trim, so I'm going to leave them just as they are. And this beauty is finished, guys. I sure hope you enjoyed creating with me today. If you did, be sure to give this tutorial a thumbs up. It really helps my little channel to grow. Thanks for spending time with me today, friends. Happy crafting.